Ladies and gentlemen, out there in Thunderdome world, war is coming, and we're on a warpath. Bringing to you this week, 6 Feet Under's Warpath. It's me, the chicken slaughterer, Tracey Newport, the Dr. David Pizzo, the permanent resident, Gabe Cooper, and the Reverend Ben Lindsay. How y'all doing tonight, gentlemen?
I've been drinking absinthe and Irish whiskey for about 6 hours. I'm doing great.
I have
This
been
should be fun.
reading about Black German feminism, trying to get a book review done for hours. So this is not that. This may be the night also where I eat my words a little bit about Chris Barnes. Only some, Ben. Don't get too excited.
I mean,
He's still who he is.
He is still who he is.
He still is who he is. There's a lot less toilet happening on this album. But anyway, this was the first 6 Feet Under album I ever got. How you doing, Gabe?
I am permanently residing in my basement.
Well, that's
Which is now Mordhouse?
we have this week.
Yeah, it's now Mordhouse, so they're just gonna have my family's just gonna have to deal with that.
Indeed.
We should have clocketeers protecting you.
Yeah. So this is Warpath, the second studio album from 6 Feet Under. On Metal Blade Records, it's a runtime of 41 minutes and 25 seconds. I suspect that it was recorded at Morris Sound Studios because it was mixed there, but it did not say. Released on 9/9/1997. Chris Barnes on vocals, Alan West on rhythm and lead guitars. This would be his last album with the band. He would leave afterward. Terry Butler on bass and Greg Gall on drums.
Yeah, I got this album. It must have been for the week it came out. Certainly the month. Because I remember, I told you all this story already, as it was in my 3-disc changer when somebody was staying over in my apartment, and that like came up in the middle of the night, and suddenly Chris Barnes was screaming that war was coming. So it was very restful and very peaceful, and that is why that relationship lasted forever. So
Forever. It was a sign of things to come with that relationship.
yeah,
And she stuck around through it. Yeah.
She didn't. Oh, she stuck around through that, but then further mistakes were made, as I'm wont to do. So it was just a death spiral, much like this inverted 6 on the skull here. That's actually just toilet flushing in the southern hemisphere or whatever. I don't know.
It's the death metal Grateful Dead.
Kind of.
Yeah,
what
they
they
basically
wanted
just
it to
ripped it
be.
off from the Grateful Dead.
Yeah, a little bit. Chris Barnes got high and watched the Grateful Dead video and drew
that
this.
sounds right. I had forgotten that this was, and I haven't listened to a whole lot of 6 Feet Under beyond this album. I'd forgotten how much death and roll was on here.
Dude.
I was, yeah. Well, now I remember. I was like, oh yeah, I used to really like this. It was one of the albums that just I didn't have room back when drive space was limited, and I didn't rip. I think so. It didn't like make it into the stuff I was like carrying from place to place when I moved a million times. So I sort of lost track of it. But there's a shit ton of death and roll in here.
Yeah, this album especially. You know, and I got like you, I got this really early on for some reason. I don't know why I got into 6 Feet Under because I wasn't like the biggest fan of Cannibal Corpse.
Me either.
But man, there was just something about this and the couple albums after this that I just really got into a lot. And maybe it was the Death and Row thing. And so I want to kind of step back because I've been with this. I haven't listened to this album in a long time, but I've been aware of this album and this band since their inception. So I kind of want to get Gabe and Tracey and to hear what their relationship with this is.
Gabe, you want to go first?
You can go ahead, Tracey.
Well, my experience with Chris Barnes is 2 things. We did Eating Back to Life with Cannibal Corpse about a year ago, actually, wasn't it? That was a hot mess. His vocals were very Cookie Monster, and
well, that entire thing was kind of a hot mess, to be fair.
I was talking about the album as a whole. Not just his vocals, but his vocals were not to be desired in that album. And then last year, I tried listening to the 6 Feet Under album that came out last year. I made about 3 tracks through it, and I was like, nope, I am done.
Oh, interesting.
So I was actually coming into this album, I was very hesitant. Like, oh God, this is going to be torture probably for me.
What was wrong with sorry, I shouldn't interrupt you. I apologize.
His vocals are hot garbage on that album from 2020. Like they're
deteriorating. Sure.
Yeah, they're not.
It
good.
happens, man. It's hard to lift this lifestyle.
The sound was off. It's like the music didn't really make cohesive sense in my head either. Like it just sounded like jumble. It's like here's death metal. We're going to smash Primus right into it and see what happens. And it
When Tracy condemns something for being a jumble, you better watch out because, like, Tracy, like, there's something to you. That's just complete metal
So,
homicide.
That really makes me want to go listen to that album because I want to know.
What is?
I thought you
Yeah, if Tracy
listened to
thinks
it
it's a hot mess, it must be good.
If I did, I don't remember it at all. So
Well,
I've not heard it.
I don't want to go back and try it and back. Okay, this is actually good. I made it like
yeah,
two
I'd
tracks
say that
through.
your tolerance to death metal is in a different place now than it was then.
Agreed.
Yeah, that was about a year and a half ago.
We've been shooting you full of it, like in installments, including this evening, so to build up your immunity.
Yeah, but I was not a big fan of that album. And as like you guys were making fun of me about, I like Control Chaos. That was just a car wreck involving a train somehow went off the tracks and happened as well. Like it was.
They would probably
Okay.
put that on the back jacket. A car wreck involving a train. That's what this album sounds like.
Yeah. So coming to this album, I was hesitant. And
Sure.
boy, was I surprised. His voice is a
It's
lot
decent.
better than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah, it's way better than Cannibal Corpse, and it sounds like better than what you
It is
experienced.
so much better than Cannibal Corpse. So
I
you
had-
actually was adventurous on this album.
Agreed.
Tried a bunch of different things.
Like 420.
420 especially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a little of that on other songs, but especially that one. You know, I was like, I'll be damned, Chris. Where's this on in the rest of your career? And again, I can't
His
speak for the
vocals.
rest of their. Yeah, I don't know the albums after this, so I can't. I should shut up.
I know a couple of the albums, and I think they continue to be good, but we'll get to those eventually.
Indeed.
So I had never heard this band before, and I had no idea what to expect going in. I had heard tell of this Chris Barnes guy and some of the complaints about his vocals. I, to be honest, like the first time through it, I really didn't pay too much attention to them, and only after the first time around did they leave any sort of impression. It's funny that there was mention of Death and Roll from the top here. I didn't really find that it sounded like that. What it was reminded me of is like punk rock, and just like a not very fast and not very heavy version of death metal, you know. And for that, you know, having the bassist from Obituary in your band, really not a lot of complexity to the songwriting or
sure.
to the riffs. So it's just a bit strange to hear them called death metal, but maybe Death and Roll for me maybe doesn't fit so well either. What is it? I'm not really sure, but it was interesting for sure. And what I also heard there was some groove. You know, there's definitely some of that going on for sure. You know, it reminds me of other stuff that was going on in the mid 90s too.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with all of that. Although I think it sounds like a type of death metal at the time, though not like the extreme death metal of a few years before. But by the time that this comes out, like death metal is going through its first catharsis and really having to reconfigure itself because I think it had pushed the extreme stuff as far as it could go. And David will correct me on this if I'm wrong, I'm sure. But this would have been like after Cannibal Corpse had been in Ace Ventura and all of that. So, you know, it was like, well, where does this go? Kind of like grunge was at the time too, because I mean, it was like grunge had happened and something else needed to occur. Anyway,
yeah,
we got
I agree with that, and there were a lot of reasons having to do with like Morbid Angel becoming too corporate for some people. Remember, there was that trajectory, and you know, the rise of Ross Robinson's Reign of Terror, like in terms of filling up audiovisual space. So there were a bunch of things, but I 100% agree that whatever elements of death we might see in this or blues rock, the groove is absolutely there in a very 1997 sort of way. That's one of the common threads you'll see through most of the shit. Ben and I are like, yeah, this is really cool. It reminds me of being a dumbass 20-year-old. It's like this or Pantera or Roots, Bloody Roots, right? I mean, it's that groove that I think some new metal carries through it. And that tends to be the new metal I like. But as we talk about new metal, it's just like a word salad for shit that came out in the 90s and 2000s. I mean, it's
I think so too.
A big basket.
And I think there's a certain, for lack of a better term, the punter element to this of just like fucking drinking beer and singing along to this shit, which I think, or whiskey in our case, which I think kind of talks to Gabe's point about it being a type of punk rock, not really a
agree with
politically
that.
conscious punk rock, but like that vibe.
Yeah, that's totally the way that I meant it. Yeah.
I see that. You know, Pantera had an element of that too. Well, at least
Sure, they
two
did.
of them did. So, right, the brothers. Yeah, these songs aren't very complex, and neither is this cover. I'm just looking at like this is simple but brutal. I'm sorry, Tracy, you're about to lay it
Oh
down.
no, I was just gonna say that I think that's probably the thing that threw me off the most is my only knowledge of Chris Barnes' prior work is Cannibal Corpse, and that little bit I heard from 2020 album. And coming to here, it's a lot more groovier than I was expecting.
Yeah, it's not like Cannibal Corpse. Obituary had some, and Obituary's album from around this time had some good groove in it. I like that album. But
You gotta do some Obituary at some point.
yeah, and I know that's my fault as death. I've been like sneaking in a disconjointed, like a disaggregated Morbid Angel blast by putting pieces of it every few months. So yes, I will get into, and I made you listen to Death, but I'll get into Morbid Angel. You know, excuse me, I'm doing it again. Deicide, some Obituary. We haven't done like Suffocation. We haven't done any of that crazy European shit like Gore Guts. Or anyway, you know,
Yeah.
Werewolves, that shit from Australia. More is coming, but war is coming. More is coming. But I just got stuck in this Morbid Angel rut because I'm obsessed and insane. So, yeah.
I went and kind of thumbed through the tracks of that 6 Feet 2020 album just a second ago. That first album is the car wreck and a half happening. The first track is. The second and the third kind of pick up a little more groovy, but his vocals are so far gone at that point.
Oh,
It's
that's sad.
they're.
Oh, yeah, should be done.
I mean, it's what you'd get if you heard like decaying paper, like wind blowing through decaying paper. It's like a close what it sounds like on the
shit.
album. Like it's not good.
I
Well, a lot of these
necessarily
guys-
think that's a bad thing.
Not necessarily, but like Bruce Dickinson had to make some adjustments. We've had several bands this year that obviously that was also had throat cancer added on top.
Mhm.
You can survive that transition, but you have to transition. Like, and,
Yeah. I don't think he transitioned.
Yeah, I
even
kind of
just
doubt that
stepping into
Chris
older
Barnes
age,
is a classically trained vocalist or ever really learned how to do the singing.
or even
Forgive me if I'm
warm-ups
wrong, Chris
and
Barnes. I'm making assumptions, but you know,
or even warm-ups and cool downs after
I'm
shows
sure his
probably
warm-up
too.
is drinking like gargling razor blades.
He gargles a fifth
How
of
else is
whiskey.
he? How else is he going to keep in shape, Ben?
That's a fair point. That's a fair point.
fucking Florida. Anyway,
Yeah.
though I know he's originally from Buffalo, but relocated because it was that important to be in Florida.
I would rather be in Florida than Buffalo.
Yeah, that's fair. Certainly in the winter.
Yeah.
I think I take Buffalo.
I could see that argument too. You just are afraid of bath salt zombies. And
Bath salt zombies, Florida man in general.
alligators playing death metal while on bath salts, just that kind of shit. Sabotage, y'all. That's a band we haven't done yet.
That's also that is completely antithetical to most of the
The
stuff.
complete opposite.
Yeah.
Anyway, where is 6 Feet Under based? I know they're kind of just all over the place because I think Chris Barnes is still in Florida. And,
I think they were also out of Tampa.
I assume. I mean, that's where the
Yeah.
Obituary people were. Just more Florida, y'all. More Tampa. Well, I came out of that scene, whether you liked it or not. It did. It was prolific.
Yeah, I mean, I think that this is really in line with kind of that death and row stuff that Entombed is doing.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe not at the same quality, but
I agree
honestly,
with
I
that.
don't think that far off.
No, it's close. This album's good. It's way better than early Cannibal Corpse and way better than what I was kind of excited. I'd sort of forgotten. Like I remembered liking a couple songs, but I've also listened to a hell of a lot more different kinds of metal now,
Yeah,
kind of like Tracy. Like, so I don't know. I'm coming at
You're
this a little
welcome.
differently. Yeah, no, it's a good thing. I liked what I liked, but it was a lot harder before the streaming era, right?
it
Like
was.
Ben,
so much so.
Gabe and I all remember that you like got. I guess you too, Trace. When you were younger, you got what you got, whatever you could afford, whatever they would let you listen, whatever they had. What's the commissary, Tracy? whatever metal they had. True
Let's
story,
see.
Gabe. Whatever.
The three albums I walked out of the commissary with was Mushroom Head, Save Your Sorrow,
There it is.
and
Megadeth,
Megadeth's
Yeah.
The Kill the King was a compilation album that had a couple extra tracks on it. And like some
Five Finger
Oh,
Death Punch.
No, like I don't remember. It might have been like somehow I walked out with a Meshuggah album that made it through a CD like twice, and that was it. Like never again.
A shame.
That's how we ended up on a watch list for the army.
Real.
Anyway, it was really nice to revisit it, and I was pleasantly surprised, if for different reasons than Tracy. And this was a fun time. This was good for the gym, punching shit that doesn't exist in the air. It was good.
Yeah, and I also want to say that the production on this is actually pretty fucking decent.
Agreed.
I guess by the time the late '90s are starting to roll around, they'd figured out what the fuck they were doing in the studio.
100%.
So,
Even I'd say by the time you start getting like into the third Cannibal Corpse, it's already
Sure.
kind of shifting. They're getting it down.
Is
And
this
also, a lot of it was money they had for studio time. You know that math, Ben, right? We got
Oh, yeah.
3 hours, boys, and like that's it. That's it.
Is this also at the time where digital recording was becoming more prominent?
you could do it. I don't know how much more.
I doubt they
prominent
were
it
doing
was.
it yet, but
Yeah.
yeah,
In
it was it
97?
existed. I don't know, but maybe that stuff came later, I think, than you think it did, especially for some of the
Well,
maybe.
I mean, we had a 4-track digital recorder by this time because this is around the time that like my band was recording stuff in our fucking living room, maybe the next year. But if you had a studio that had all the reel-to-reel stuff where you
Yeah,
wouldn't have
they
to
were just
fucking
using
convert
it.
over, I mean, yeah, I don't know. So
Maybe some of both too. Who knows?
yeah, entirely possible.
We'd have to interview the production team. That's a different podcast where we go to fucking Florida.
You know, if
David
you want
just wants to
sponsor by
travel to
somebody-
Tampa.
I mean, I told you I literally went on a fucking pilgrimage to Mooresound Studios, and no, I'm not joking. So it was sort of anticlimactic. So I'm like, huh. I mean, it was like, you know, basically like a strip
What if you
mall,
got to
but it
go
was-
in and talk to them?
we should have. We went there at some weird time
They
because
probably would have signed you to a deal.
I mean,
Scream this
that
mic.
time
You're good.
potentially. Can you scream into this toilet? You're hired.
Shall we talk about
Oh.
tracks?
Yeah, let's
Let's do.
Oh, go ahead,
bangers
Bill.
on here. Yeah, please do.
Yeah, I like most of these. I'm not going to say I kind of like them all, so you know, for the drinking game, but the majority of them I do like. I really like Death or Glory, the Holocaust cover, War's Coming. I think it's a great opening. Non-Existence is where I was like, holy shit, Chris Barnes, you're flexing on this. Journey into Darkness. Some of the stuff on here is silly, such as 420, which Chris Barnes made a big deal about. We recorded this on 420 at 420 in the afternoon. It's like, who the fuck cares? But it was 97. I get it.
And it's
had a
4
friend-
minutes and 22 seconds. Like they got
Right.
it damn close.
Yeah, they did. I had a friend who was driving around in like an Impala with like a fucking pot leaf on the back windshield. It was the 90s. What can you say?
I had that car too. It had that license plate, but it was an older
That's
Impala.
awesome.
So,
Revenge of the Zombie is silly but kind of catching.
Fun.
And I think Cajun Disgrace is also a pretty good closer for this album.
I just want to add a shout out for Manipulation. I think it's really badass. I love that fucking song. And then 420. That song is awesome. It's
Oh,
so
good.
ridiculous.
I mean, it's like, but
His
it's-
vocals. I was really stunned. I was on a treadmill. I'm like, what? What is happening right now? I had to like stop. Like, what is happening here?
But that one is so of the time, man. That's like,
100%.
that's like
man.
a fucking time capsule song.
Yeah, it's open strong, end strong. There's a few songs here that are sort of filler, but it's a fun record and it goes by quickly. And I'm probably gonna listen to it again just because now I've rediscovered it. So thanks, spreadsheet, or actually thanks, Ben.
I'll go next, like you guys. I think War is Coming, Non-Existence is a good 1-2 punch there. I enjoy Animal Instinct, 420 and Manipulation. I think Night Vision is a nice death and roll,
Yeah.
right there. And then Cage and Disgrace. Like this album was surprisingly better than I was expecting it to be.
It's good.
So for me, I think there's a little bit less that I could latch onto. I'm always here for I lean more in the thrash direction than I do in the groove direction
Sure.
most of the time. And where I was really reminded of sort of hardcore punk rock that I was listening to in the late 90s was Animal Instinct. It's a really fantastic track and
Sure.
got some good lyrics. I'll kill till I die. And that's great. One of my favorite tracks on this actually was Death or Glory, and it's the cover song on the record, which is sandwiched in the middle of it. I don't know why they decided to put that there, but the groove goes out the window, and you got this like forward drive for a change, and that's really nice. I kind of wish more of their songs were like this. I thought Burning Blood was decent, and I also, thought that Revenge of the Zombie was okay. And the tempo changes and Night Visions were pretty good, but the rest I wasn't so taken with. I think part of the problem is like, not only are the sort of melodies not that complex, it's also kind of just tuneless some of the time, and I don't know, it didn't hook me. But like I said, there were a few places where I felt pulled into it.
Fair enough. Time to grade it then. I'll go ahead and go first on this as well. I'm going to give this a B+. I think it's an excellent album. I mean, it's actually trending towards an A-, but I'm going to go with the B+. It's short, it's groovy, it's got a little bit of the death and roll thing. I agree with Gabe that you can always put more thrash on an album, in my opinion. So I wouldn't have hurt my feelings if they had done that. But Chris Barnes is doing something other than growling into a toilet bowl, and I'm here for this.
This is going to shock you. My grade is identical to Ben's. It is a B+ trending towards an A-. Everything he said. Also, love that there's no toileting. B+. It's fun. It's good.
So mine's also a B+, but I'm gonna give it the closer to trending towards a B, like an 87, 87 and a half kind of deal.
It's the cowardice talking.
Well, no surprises here. I'm bringing up the rear. This is a C trending towards C+. There were about 2 tracks on here that I thought were pretty great, and a couple that were just like, nah, they're a little bit better than okay. Maybe another record of theirs would do it more for me, but I wasn't feeling it.
Actually,
Maybe
I
it's
think
just
you
not
might like the record after this, because I think that if I remember correctly, it is much more aggressive and fast in this one.
The one before it was.
Yeah,
I heard that one too.
Yeah.
I'd definitely be willing to give it a chance.
All right. Well, we can review one of them. We got a whole year coming up next year.
we do.
A whole ass year that I'm sure we'll fill very quickly with nothing but Secret Morbid Angel and Tracy's allegedly random picks that are not random. They're based on an algorithm to hurt Ben that he wrote.
There will be no more random picks. It'll all be the spreadsheet's design.
It's all Zool.
It has achieved consciousness.
Oh shit, y'all. Well,
Indeed.
Tracy, speaking of achieving consciousness, what the hell is happening next?
So as David said, he put together a disjointed Morbid Angel blast, and we're picking up the next album of this. Even though we're jumping around on it, I think we're moving backwards in time to do it. So we were looking at Morbid Angel's a 1989 release, Altars of Madness.
Fuck yes, that's the answer. I'm so pumped. That album art is a lot going on there.
There certainly is. Thank you for listening to Thunderdome Metal Reviews, and we'll catch you next time.